Welcome to Waiting on the Trade, a comics book club for people who can't keep up with monthly comics. I'm Matt Ledger.
I'm Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck.
And I'm Simon Payne.
This month, we're talking about Charles Soule, Ryan Brown and Company's 8 Billion Genies. Now, in case you need a refresher, 8 Billion Genies imagines the chaos that would ensue if every single person on Earth, all 8 billion of them, were simultaneously gifted a genie who grants one wish. Some use their wish wisely, some use it foolishly, and we as readers get to see the consequences play out over 8 seconds, then 8 minutes, then 8 days, and so on, all the way up to 8 centuries after the inciting incident.
Take it again, start from the top.
All right, here we go. Welcome to Waiting on the Trade, Comics Book Club.
One take.
Simon demands professionalism. If the intro is out of date from the last podcast, he will change it so it's right. Damn it.
It's the one thing I can influence on the show.
Simon, welcome back to our very professional podcast. How's it going?
No, we're keeping it? Oh, shit. Okay.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm good. All right, hang on. Here we go.
Yep. Simon, how's it going?
I'll just reference it later so that it
No,
won't make
my
any
editing,
sense if you get the
no.
No, the continuity of the show. No.
No.
Oh, I was worried that this was going to be a straightforward intro for a second there. I'm glad it wasn't. We bailed out of that one in time. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, how's things?
As of recording, my daughter turned 3 this week, so we had a birthday party over the weekend. So
That is
planning
crazy that
that
she's
and-
3.
yeah,
I think kids are only there for making people feel old. Like, honestly, it's ridiculous.
Well, also the future, Pat, as discussed in the book.
That's not so much
Every
my
child
problem.
is a wish granted, Pat.
I don't know if I'd waste my wish on that. I don't know.
Oh, dang. Shots fired.
it's not for everyone. I get it.
I'm sure for someone they did use their wish on that. Someone who desperately wanted a
Sure.
child and couldn't. But we'll get into
And
that.
probably since that child was not born before the genies existed, that child wouldn't get a wish, right?
Yeah. Plus, they're a remnant, so they would just die when their parents
Yeah.
die.
I was just trying to think if that's a way to do infinite wishes, but I don't think it is.
I've been trying to think of ways out of
Make
that, too.
life and then have that life have a wish. But if they're remnants, so they don't have wishes.
Did we see? I mean, we saw a child born after.
We saw the 8 billionth born, I think is what happened, right?
Well, what's her name?
Oh, I guess the Zhangs, but it was like
Yeah.
conceived before.
she was
already
already
pregnant,
pregnant.
Oh, so if there's...
now we're in
oh,
discussions
that's
of
going to bring
personhood.
it...
Oh,
no.
I don't
Oh,
fucking
avoid that
know.
discussion.
Oh, no.
Let's sidestep that one, guys. Not stepping that within 5 minutes of starting the podcast.
Shit.
Simon, the pictures of your daughter's birthday party were lovely. I enjoyed seeing them. They made me
So cute.
smile.
Yeah, we always have a theme. So first birthday was Snoopy. Last year she kind of helped pick. It was Baby Shark, and this year was Bluey. So my wife found some little clip-on Bluey ears that we could put in her hair, and we did tie-dyed some T-shirts and put some iron-on decals for Bluey characters and stuff. So I had a blast.
All the kids are into Bluey now. Every single one of them. There's not a one that's not.
It's a fun show. It's a show I legitimately enjoy watching. Some kids' TV you just kind of tolerate because it's there, but I actually enjoy that show. So
I was about to say this is not a Bluey podcast and we should move on, but I will say I've also enjoyed the episodes of Bluey that I watched, so I get it. I understand why it's the hit new thing, the happening phenomenon.
my daughter's favorite episode is Baby Race, which is Chili recalling how Bluey was born and how she got super competitive. Just keep going on Bluey for another 20 minutes.
The only episode I've seen is the vasectomy episode.
Nice.
Where they
I've
talk
not
about
seen that one. I will.
Bluey's dad having a vasectomy.
It's not even the main point of it. It's just a conversation in the background of the episode.
It is unfortunately not a Bluey podcast, though. We do have to talk about comic books. And Simon,
Cut it
this
out.
is the part. Just cut out all the talk
This
about
whole
comic
section.
books.
Get
We're
outta
talking
here.
about the cut out.
We could call the podcast Kablooey. I think Kablooey would be good.
Pat and I were riffing on some alternate podcast names for another sub podcast the other day, so maybe we'll throw some Bluey names out there too. But yeah, we'll cut all that out. Cut all that out because we're so professional. We're gonna keep it
Yep.
on task. This is the part where I would normally ask Simon, "Hey, why did you pick this book to come read with us? But Simon did not pick the book.
Oh.
Pat picked the book.
What?
We decided that Simon would be a good person to come talk about it with us. So I've
That's
got two
right,
questions.
listeners.
Yeah,
I can pick books. It's happened.
you've picked books before.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah.
Monstrous is the most Patrick Fitzgerald Fleck comic book
Oh my
I've
God, it's
ever
so
read in
good,
my
right?
life.
Holy shit. Honestly, it's pretty similar, world building to this one if you think about it. But go ahead, what are your questions?
The first question is, Pat, how did you find this book?
Reddit. Second question.
Awesome. Moving on. What made you want to read it? I guess I have
Make
more than two
time
questions
for all
if this
of our
is the way we're
blues.
going to be about this.
No, I don't remember what subreddit it was. Probably comic related of some sort. They were talking about what recent comics were really exciting for them, and lots of people were recommending this. I went to Amazon and read a little like sample you get with Kindle, and the art was a little rough for me, and I wasn't sure about it up until the premise really kicks in. And what really sold me is the splash screen of the Earth with like total population number of humans, total populations of genies. It's like, that's my shit.
Yep.
So then I
Yeah,
was
those
in.
are so good. Like in my discussion guide, there's the section that's like, what are some of your just like favorite pages of the comic? And I was like, every single time the Earth
Yeah.
is shown with
Yep.
a stat line. I love it. I was so into it.
It's like,
And
I'm
I-
not sure about this. And then I turned the page like, never mind, I'm in. We're good.
The Earth is a cube. The Earth is an ice cream cone. The Earth is a weird cartoon character with like dangly arms. The Earth is now
Yeah.
a dead cartoon character with
Yes.
dangly arms.
It's like a giant volcano erupting. There's a chunk bitten out of him. It's like,
There's something wrong with the moon.
The moon's so good. The moon is like, oh, we're gonna talk about the moon so much when we get into it, I think.
it's just the fleet of souls from various properties hovering around Earth.
Yeah.
I do think that first splash page where the genies show up, like the two genies that appear in front of, I believe it's Will, and I made a main character list so I could do this. Robbie, they appear in front of Will and Robbie.
Yeah.
I think that is like a really like good hook moment for the book. Like it is kind of just like the art is a little rough. I agree with you, Pat. And I think even in the back of the hardcover edition I was reading, like Ryan Brown talks about, he actually like went back and redid a lot of the art in the first issue just because it was so off model from like what happens later in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that first like two genies popping up double page splash and like the color of the genies I think is what really makes it pop. Like those star fields.
The
Like, it's such
design
a
of
great
them is really
design.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're making plushies now. I found out when I was doing
Oh.
research yesterday.
Yeah.
That is a good idea. Whoever decided that they should do that was a genius because like
Those are good plushies.
a bunch of people are gonna buy some plushies. But yeah, I think from that moment it really just kind of starts rocking, and in my opinion, doesn't really let up. Like there are a few moments here and there, but other than that, I really enjoyed this book.
Yeah. I was impressed. And the fact that it's such an original story too is really refreshing. And
Yeah, and,
told
like-
in get this one volume. Crazy.
Yeah, done in 8 issues, right? I was like, oh yeah, that's so. I actually kind of had this earmarked as something to maybe bring to the podcast, anyways, because I had wanted to write about it for the blog, and then I ended up writing about a different genie story, like, and I was like, I'm not gonna write about two genie stories in the same like few months or whatever. So I'm glad you happened upon it because it's, I think, definitely worth like taking a look at. It's really good. There's a reason that Amazon picked it up to make into like a TV show or movie instantly because I think it's
Yeah.
got such a good hook.
That'll be interesting.
Simon, how'd you feel about the book when we pitched it to you?
I was hooked right away from the line because I thought, oh no, that's a terrible idea, like for humanity, but like a great story or world building setting to make. And yeah, it didn't disappoint. I noticed some of the inconsistencies with art too, because some of the characters do change looks throughout the issues and stuff, which happens sometimes with different artists or different schedules for books. But overall, I really liked it, especially some of the big splash pages of like cut to what the world outside looks like, and it's just whatever
Chaos. Yeah.
nonsense is happening.
Carzillas
Yeah.
and superheroes and whale helicarriers with angel wings. I love the whale helicarrier with an angel wing that has a
Fun
city on top of
City.
it.
Yeah.
So good.
And like a curious number of like giant food monsters,
Right?
like corn and chocolate bars and stuff.
There is
So,
part of
yeah.
me that wanted to like, I don't know, like if I had a knit to pick, I think the knit that I would pick for this book is that a lot of the imagination feels very much like a like American superhero influenced like artists like imagination in the background gags, like a lot of the same motifs like Carzillas and superheroes and blah blah like that sort of thing sort of repeats here and there, but like I feel like there's so like the fact that there's so much going on in this book and there is so much inventive stuff and like if stuff repeats a little bit here and there, like there's you're only human, you know, like how much stuff are you
Yeah.
gonna pull out of one braid?
And the fact that children above a certain age, I think there's like 8 is when Betty got hers, but
Yeah.
like can just wish whatever they want. Like, think you'd get a lot of that stuff too. So
That's true, yes. I also feel like in a real world scenario, there'd be like someone would just wish for something that just like invalidates all of reality instantly. And I know the genies kind of are like not doing that, so that's like that plays out that way. Like that's fine, but I don't know. The fact that the world even continues to exist past like minute 8 is kind of wild.
yes, I had to keep track of the number of commas on the human population splash pages
Yes.
because oh no, oh that dropped like 100 million. Oh okay, like
Oh,
okay.
800 million people died. Nice.
Yeah, the fact that the first 8 seconds is like so
Already
quick,
down 2
and then
million.
then it's the first 8 minutes. It's like, oh, okay. And then I do really enjoy, like, I was actually just about to say, I think all of us are very like story structure and rules based people. Like, we all kind of enjoy that. Like, and we all enjoy world building to an extent. I think maybe Pat the most out of all three of us. So I think like just the fact that the book it's got like two big substructures to it, right? Like the first big substructure is the 8 seconds, 8 minutes, 8 hours, 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 months, 8 years, 8 decades, 8 centuries, right? Did I get them all?
Sounds right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, let's say yes. So it's got that structure to it, right? Where like each issue is kind of progressing through at least one of those time frames. And that's a cool structure to lay onto a story. It also like sets a lot of constraints that you're then gonna have to figure out how to play around or like play with. Like 8 decades, 8 centuries is a lot of time. But I think it navigates that really naturally in a way that the structure doesn't feel forced, even though you find out in the interviews in the back of the book that the structure came like as part of the overall pitch of the story before even characters were like fleshed out. And then the second substructure is like the genies and the rules of the genies and how they can and can't work. And I think that stuff's all really interesting. And I'm guessing that Pat has a lot of stuff to say about the like what he didn't like about the rules and how the genies worked, because that's the most world building-y stuff I think in the story.
I was sort of confused about people being able to give their wishes, their genies, to other people. Didn't quite understand how that worked. Because if you wish for the genie to go to someone, isn't that you using your wish? How do you give a wish to someone else?
Right, because then they introduce Idea Man. He's got like a bazillion genies because we find out that he wished for people to believe in him, and so he's got like kind of this aura
Brainwash.
of mind control almost thing. And at first I wasn't sure if he had found a cheat for getting a bunch of wishes or if they were from other people, but um, when he gets attacked by the lawyers, I think it is,
Yeah,
that
yeah, which is
like
such a good sequence.
yes, he says that he has a bunch of genies waiting on standby to like counter their wishes that would hurt them. And so it seems like you can tell the genies to do things without it being a wish, and like
Yeah.
have kind of a plan ahead
To
of time. So that
prepare a wish.
yeah, that must be enough to be able to give your wish to somebody else.
Yeah, sort of the same thing of like you can tell the genie to hide or whatever, and like you can tell them or like suggest they do something without it actually being a wish, I think. I think part of what's confusing about that is that when the band like gives their wish over
Yeah.
their last wish
Yeah.
over to each other, that is an actual wish. So like is that the only way it works? Apparently not, because otherwise I don't know how the idea man getting
Yeah.
all those genies is one of those things I had to think a couple times about, and I was like, I don't know exactly how this works. But it must work somehow because I don't think Charles Soule just left it out. It doesn't seem like a thing he would do.
Right. And I think part of the reason the band might have cost a wish is that it continues to exist after one or more of them die. So like
Yeah.
I feel like if people in Hope's Hollow had died before he could use the genie to counter a wish, then they wouldn't
The genie
have
would
that
have just
genie
disappeared too,
available.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I would just, I mean, the abilities of just a genie seems pretty good. Like without using a wish, having an omnipotent entity that like answers most questions asked
Yeah.
Yeah, who can just tell
seems
you what's
pretty
going
good.
on. Although you have
Yeah.
to stay on the genie's good side, I feel like, for that to actually work. Like they all do really hate the idea man by the end. Like
Mhm.
they're like maliciously complying with him for sure.
Sure.
Whereas like when Li Fang is like worried about her husband, I think it's her genie that like basically is just like, oh yeah, he's fine. It's don't worry about it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep Ed and June updated on Robbie. It seems like as well.
Oh
He's
yeah.
gone for a few months, so
Well, after the scouring, they were asking the genies like, "What happened to this person? Oh,
oh yeah,
scoured. What about this one? They're
they like
alive."
that
Howard.
game.
Yeah.
Do you guys think it would be useful at this point to run down kind of our main characters from the bar, who they are, and like what they use their wish for, just so we kind of have it all fresh in our heads? I know that was useful for me when I was putting my notes together yesterday.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. So we got Will Williams, who is the bar owner and also a genie. I was gonna write former genie, but I guess he's not former genie. He is still a genie.
Yeah, it's sort of. Yeah.
Yeah.
A genie
So like
turned human.
he's a genie that then also gets a genie. So that's interesting.
That is true. He did get a genie.
Yeah, because his wish is like the very first wish we see, which is that no wish made outside the lamp wick can affect the bar or anyone or anything inside it. Which I was trying to figure out if that
Yep.
was violated when Ernest Hemingway walks into the bar. Like, because Ernest
Yeah.
Hemingway is a remnant of a wish, correct? So, like, is that a wish affecting the people inside the bar?
I mean, I guess if you want
Yeah,
to get
but
super
Opening the
technical
door?
about
I
it.
don't know. It's interesting.
I
Because,
mean
like,
June
there's
gets
definitely.
summoned within. They spend wishes within the bar too. So
But
Yeah,
I
so
think a
that's a
wish
wish made
made in the
inside the
bar
bar.
can
Yeah.
affect. Yeah.
oh, I see. You mean he's being from outside coming in is
Yeah,
what's
some like
Yeah, which is a really
librarian
big
wished book
gamble
him
on
and
his
Dorothy
part.
Parker. Yeah.
Yeah. Really big like gamble on Will's part to think that there wouldn't be some crazy person in the bar willing, or like a crazy person comes into the bar, makes a wish to kill everyone in there, or like do something crazy in the bar.
well. It seems like he said that there was a good chance of somebody in this bar having the perfect wish is what he's been waiting for.
Yeah.
And so I think he might have some kind of insight as the genie human as to what people might be wishing for.
That makes sense to
Maybe.
me. I'm willing to buy that. There's Robbie, who is Ed and June's son. He wishes to become Sunman so he can protect his parents.
So sad.
There's Ed, who's Robbie's dad, and his wish is to resurrect his wife and Robbie's mom, June.
Mhm.
I listed June just because completionist's sake, like, but as she's a remnant, she has no wish. There's Alex, who's the drummer for the Bada Bangs. His wish is eventually used by Daisy. It's the last wish of the book. Daisy, a guitarist for the Bada Bangs, uses her wish immediately to try to make Brian love her. Brian is the other guitarist, maybe bassist. I don't know. I'm not good at guitars for the Bada Bangs. His wish is the one that joins, like, that makes Alex's genie jointly controlled by all of the Bada Bangs. so that they can get into Fun City, which is hilarious to me that money can still get you into can still buy your way through into being a successful like artist or whatever. I love it. There's Wang, who I think might be a software developer. We don't really learn a lot about people's like professions or lives before
No, not really.
the event. Like here and there we get a little bit, but not a ton. He's Lai Feng's husband. He is Ting Shu / Betty's dad, and his wish is a badass suit of armor. No, it's actually to become whatever he needs to be to survive this new world and to protect anyone he is with. Mostly it is a badass suit of armor, though.
Mhm. A like Ant-Man, Ultraman kind of armor.
Yeah.
In my notes, I put a reference picture to Zorn from X-Men, which was, I don't remember if it was
Yeah.
Uncanny X-Men. There was a run where it was like a mutant that supposedly had like a nova in his head, so he had to wear a helmet for it to contain himself, and then it was like, surprise, it was Magneto the whole time or whatever. But
Don't remind me. Okay.
I
but yeah,
loved it with Magneto the whole time, but that's a different podcast.
just gave me those vibes.
Yeah,
So.
the helmet definitely looks similar. Two more. There's Lai Feng, who's Wang's wife, and Ting Shu / Betty's mom. Her wish is that Betty survives when there's the basically like assault on the sanctuary they're staying at the time. And then there is Ting Shu / Betty, Wang and Lai Feng's daughter. Her wish is to not have a wish at the end of the volume. So yeah, that's our main crew. I almost listed the Idea Man in there. He feels like he's main character enough that he should probably be in that lineup, but we'll end up talking about him a bunch anyways, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely an antagonist, so a player in the story for sure.
Yeah. Did you guys have a favorite character or set of characters?
I guess I had most empathy for Robbie, Ed, and June and their story. Like that's the storyline I felt most compelled by.
Yeah, I think a lot of Robbie's sequences were really affecting, especially once he was like out in the world as Sunman. Like
Yeah.
the one that always like so I've kind of read this 3-ish times at this point, like twice for this, and then I read most of it when it was coming out monthly. And the bit that always gets me is where like Robbie and King Power the Star or whatever his name is, I think that's
Yeah.
right,
Yes.
are fighting, and like King Power the Star I think is dying at that point because he's just been beaten to death, and Robbie's like, this isn't fair, I'm only 12 years old. But then King Power the Star is like, I'm 11, and then dies. It's like,
so
oh
sad.
god damn. Like,
His
you
level
know,
of
all
moral
the people they're
quandary.
fighting are like 50-year-old power nerds or whatever that wish themselves
Yeah.
into supervillain.
Yeah, all the edgelords. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like even Robbie's like, do I kill everything? What if some of it? What if this is remnants or wish material or actual person?
A
Like
person to transform
the
themselves.
kaiju's and
Yeah.
the villains and all the other. It's just like, yeah.
And then later on, he's just talking about how he's gonna basically like go into orbit, break a meteor into like several different rocks, like several different like chunks of rock, and just rain it down on the Earth, and that should take care of the people
Yeah.
like in this bunker or whatever. He's like, yep, that'll do it. It's just like completely desensitized to the whole thing.
Well, and it's Dougland, so you gotta get rid of the Dougs, right?
You get dug in, you can't do much about that.
Lol.
Watch out, they'll Doug you.
So when I was writing up my notes, realized that there is a secret 9th issue of this comic that was like handed out or no, I don't think it was handed out, but it was like available at New York Comic Con, I think last year, and then there's still some for sale online on Charles Soule's website. And I'm kind of like, I don't need it. This story was good. It wrapped up. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need more of this. But also, we never saw Dougland, really. Like, what is going on in Dougland? It's on the map so much in this story.
I know. I love that in the wide shot. It's just like all of the southern United States is Dougland now. It's like great.
In the scene where Sunman is talking about throwing rocks at Doug's, you can see like Mount Rushmore with Doug, like the same normal white dude repeated in it.
Oh, see, I
So we
missed
see
that one.
glimpses of Dougland.
There's so many background gags in this book. It's so good. Like
Yes.
before coming into it, like Ryan Brown had been talked up to me a little bit on various podcasts of just like being one of the like most background gaggy artists in comics, like to a Chip Zdarsky level or higher, which like Chip Zdarsky also very high on the background gag meter. And there's so many good ones in here. And like one of my favorite ones was it's like really early actually, I think, where Will Williams like locks the door to the bar and the sound effects are like lock, schlock, and clock or something. And then he
Yeah.
has to unlock the door to the bar and it's just the same sound
The
effects
repeated
spelled
backwards.
backwards. I was like, Kat, you gotta look at this. This is awesome. No, I've tried to
Yeah.
page through to find the Dougs because I missed it.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Thanks, Pat.
Yep. I'm pretty sure Dougland is just clones of the same guy. I think it's
That Fallout vault.
is it Gary in Fallout?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Gary. There's a Hamburglar and Ronald McDonald gag pretty early on. Of when they're fighting the supervillains. There's just a guy with a giant cheeseburger for a head, and then a clown getting beaten up. I could have sworn at one point they mentioned something about like a giant cheese man or whatever, and then he's like in the next panel on the next page in the background. I couldn't find it exactly, but there is just a giant cheese man.
Yeah, the backgrounds are probably some of the best part of the
Yeah,
comic.
they're so fun and like the effort is appreciated. I'm sure they were a pain in the ass to draw. But I think they really pay off and they really make it feel like they really make the premise feel like it's happening in a way that if you just left a lot of the backgrounds blank, the story would be actually like much lesser for it, I feel like.
For sure.
The tactical map when they're planning out the
Yeah,
of
you could actually read all
surviving
the havens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Margaritaville's a bit of a wild card.
Margaritaville. Oh, what a good line.
So good.
Simon, did you have a favorite character or storyline?
I was gonna say I'm always a sucker for like wizened elder characters. So like Will Williams is just like he's seen the shit before, and I already thought he was kind of a cool bartender dude at the beginning. He picked up pretty early on that there was something special going on, especially since he just casually talked Mandarin to the couple as they walked
Yeah.
in, and then seemed to know a little more than he was letting on early. And then I was like, oh, he's a genie. It's like, okay, I get it. I figured he was either working for the people that had stuff going on or like knew something about it. And then, but in terms of humans, Robbie was obviously like, yeah, that sucks that happened to him and all the things that he had to grow up so fast, and then family being such a big thing in their lives, and then have both of his parents go at the same time is rough. But it's hard not to feel for the Zhangs as well because they're doing what they think is best for their family all the time, and then it just turns into another one of those overbearing helicopter parents that tries to do everything for their kids instead of helping their kids become their own people, and then it just they get I don't want to say punished for it, but like doesn't end the way they wanted to with their best intentions. So that's always compelling for me as a parent. So
Yeah, and I mean like at the same time it does like in a way end the way that like end the way they wanted it to in that Betty does survive. Like Betty is one of the
She
last people we get
survives.
to see. Yeah, but like at what cost, right? Is what
yeah,
you're saying. So
right.
Yeah.
Their intentions, they meant the best, and especially in the moments where like you're about to die, you just try to make the best wish you can for your daughter. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know if survival's like the best thing that could happen to your kid in a
no,
post-apocalyptic
I
world.
Yeah.
Like,
mean,
Kid Robbie knew that in the first few seconds. It's like I've read enough comic books to know immortality is not the best thing to wish for.
right.
yeah.
But I mean, in the instant that you're dying and you want your daughter to live,
Mhm.
it's sort of hard to think about all the other loopholes.
So I had flipped to that section of the book because I wanted to pull up basically the sequence where Robbie throws Idea Man into the moon and the moon eats him, which is I think actually
Yeah.
my favorite sequence in the book. But before we talk about that, because it's kind of
After he insulted the moon.
yeah, it's such a good setup, right? Like I'm like 3 points deep on this, but like this book is so good at like setting stuff up and then paying it off in a way that just like still feels really natural. But I gotta walk it back 2 points quick. There's a moment where the guy who's like the son of the leader of that sanctuary, like the headphones just like crack off of his genie, and instead of being happy, like they're all like leaving this sanctuary in rebellion, right? Because their parents
Mhm.
won't have their let them have their wish. But like immediately he knows that his dad is dead, and he's just like, "Oh no, Papa!" And that's like his first reaction. And I think there's a lot of that throughout the book, like you were saying, Simon, of just like family bonds and like bonds between like sons and parents, daughters and parents, children and parents, like, and how they're just trying to do their best in this world that is like almost unsurvivable. Like, yeah, it's a lot. So,
And like extending it beyond families too, it's just like the the um, discourse they have on short-term versus long-term consequences and like planning. Like you get the chaos phase of everyone getting their impulsive wishes right away versus the people that spend months, years planning what they want the world like to look like afterwards. And the same thing goes for parenting and what's good for the kid now versus what's going to be good for the kid's rest of the kid's life and when they grow
so I
up.
was actually
So
like approaching a similar idea the other day when I was writing up my notes of like, because I was thinking about the like, what's the like the theme and through line of the book, right? And I think it's easy to be like, oh, humanity's really short-sighted. Like, like billions of people instantly just died and like used their wishes to like become Carzillas and like they fought each other and killed themselves. And then like some of the people who didn't use their wishes like short-sightedly immediately are still just like scheming in the end to like make their sanctuaries, like the Idea Man and the lawyers. Dougland, I think, is a great place, so that one doesn't count. But the two like sets of wishes that survive the longest. I would say even three sets of wishes because I think I would count Robbie's like wish to be able to protect his parents also are just like wishes to be able to protect the people you love. Like it's the Zhang's wish to for their daughter to survive. It's the Bada Bang's wish for like Daisy to like basically like they knew that they were gonna have to leave Daisy behind and that was not acceptable to them, so they wished such that they could continue as a unit.
I don't think that was meant to be an immortality wish, though. I think that was just
No,
a
it wasn't, but it was a wish to protect each other, right? Like it's like, no, we're all in this together. Like we're one unit. You can't
sure.
just like take two of us because we have genies and not the other one. And so like I think it says something that in the long run for the story, the wishes that end up paying off the longest are just the wishes that people make to protect each other in this weird, weird, weird world. All that deep stuff said, do you guys want to talk about a guy getting thrown into the moon and eaten by the moon? Because it's so good.
yeah, going along with that background stuff, it's just like seeing the sun come up on the horizon. It's just got the giant cartoon
The
like sunglass
sunglasses.
shades of it,
Yeah.
and then it zooms out and there's the moon has the face from the old black and white movie and like yeah, eat Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea man gets so close to actually making a wish with his final wish. Instead gets eaten by the moon that he had wanted to wish out of the sky earlier. And then a nice little genie to moon fist bump to, to round it off.
Yes. Yeah, I do like that the genies also reflect like who their master is too,
Yeah, that was a
and
cool
like
choice.
look like them and kind of to some degree act like them or on their side. So
Yeah. To put everyone at ease. I think that does actually semi naturally bring up the other point I wanted to talk about, which is just like so much of this stuff is reverse engineered from like rules that are laid out at the beginning of just brainstorming the story. Like we find out in the back matter where it's just like Charles Soule and Ryan Brown talking that like a lot of the structure of how the genies work in the world is the first stuff it seems like that came about. But it then like it's not just world building for world building's sake. Like if it was just rules, it'd be whatever. It wouldn't be that cool. But like Soul finds a lot of like interesting ways for the characters to naturally either exploit those rules or like rub up against them in ways that are cool.
and I think it's good like writing technique of like, if this is true, then this is true. And like some people do that just like you said, just to build story, just to have lore, but to have characters in that world and
I missed that before. I just wanted to post that.
the
For
moon
the audio
punching the
medium of
glasses off the sun.
podcasting. Pat has posted a picture of the sun punching the sun, or the moon punching the sunglasses off the sun, and the sun crying about it.
But yeah, like it's so easily, and it happens with some media too. Like I love Blade Runner, but like it's a great lore movie, but not a good like storytelling movie. Like
It's a very
it
basic
has
story.
it has flaws in like the characters doing things in a sequence that make a movie. Um, whereas this comic easily could have done that, like a what if this happens? Oh, genies! And it's like, okay, let's pick a group of characters and follow what their lives are like through these 800 years.
Yeah, and like their choices aren't like forced. Like I'm thinking about the Zangs like leaving for the sanctuary where all the kids genies get like wish locked. Like we kind of like we're hinted at that that's a thing way back that like
hmm
eventually like Tingshu is gonna come into her wish and they've got to figure out what they're gonna do about that and like there is a place they can go and just the mechanics of how that works like I think were probably figured out pretty easily like that would be a thing in the world but we see it happen as part of the Zhang's story and it's like their actual natural story this is like what they would do so I think those working in concert works really nicely. I'm now thinking about all those like just lore dump pages from Monstrous Pat that you loved, and I just was like, man, I can't with these. It's the opposite of that. I feel like.
Yeah, I think the world was detailed enough for this story. I think they didn't have to go too crazy.
Yeah.
Simon has posted a video in the show note or in the Discord that I'll probably put in the show notes about lore versus writing.
Yeah, Matt Colville, D&D community creator, writer, game designer, has a bunch of videos online, but I linked one about lore versus writing and just yeah, there's a difference between having things about your world versus like putting that in front of an audience or a player or communicating in a way that's not just a textbook.
Yeah, and I would say this story doesn't even come close to like textbook or like, hey, I'm here to say exposition to you. Like there's maybe a few spots. I don't know. How did you guys feel about like flashing back near the end to see like all of Will's story, basically from the last genie cycle to now?
It was amazing.
All right, good.
I liked knowing it. It kind of got me confused when we get back to the point where Betty and Daisy is her name show up again. I was just like, okay, I had to like remind myself what loop we were on, because I was just like, okay, he went through another one then to get to this point. So yeah, having him being Ivan the Terrible and um, just going through the phases that humans did of like hedonism and self-improvement and family, and it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I liked getting to see three-eyed genies because apparently in the last cycle we were all three-eyed.
Yeah, that was really cool. There were three-eyed people and then lizard people when they were talking
Yes.
about it in the bar. Like little genies were like, well, that was a lizard world, wasn't it? Oh, I like that
Well,
one.
like 20 cycles ago, there
I
was.
was gonna say I think that was a while ago. The lizard people.
Which is interesting because when the three-eyed genie, when Will was a three-eyed genie, he was saying that his final wish was that his wisher wanted his people to be on top for this round.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
us. That's
Which-
us. It's us, the middle.
Sure, but I didn't know what that meant. Yeah, I guess
I think
this is
I think
white
it's
people.
supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be non-specific on purpose, but I read it as like it's us. So
Because I was double checking that his genie form had three eyes. Because maybe his person was a mutation that only had two, but he does have three eyes. So it wasn't that. Yeah, I really like the little hint of like, it's like the Mass Effect thing, like the cycles that they hint at have been going on forever, and we get to see just
Right.
like a little taste of like that happened, but it happened 20 cycles ago. I don't know, something
Just
about
con-
like massive amounts of time is exciting. I don't know what it is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it's a cool narrative device. It usually works well as long as like the writer does it right. I
Yeah.
appreciated that one of his techniques for trying to buy more time to figure out what the perfect wish is was just genocide. It's like, oh, okay, that's not all right, friend. But
It's a little plague here or there. It's all good.
I mean, if it's just about numbers, if there's no morality, then that's one way to do it, I guess. Yikes. It did remind me a little bit of at the very end of the Sandman storyline, especially having rewatched this season of the television show recently.
Mhm.
Of God, what's his name?
Hob, it's very
Yes,
Hob.
Hob.
Yeah.
Yes, the guy that basically bets Dream that he won't get bored of being alive, and so they meet every 100 years in the same bar to talk about him being an immortal human. Yeah, because that'd just be interesting. Daisy admits that it's mostly just felt long.
I can imagine it would. You know.
I mean, her world is a bit different too. Like by the time we're at well, so in that issue, we start at like 702 years after G-Day, and then we jump another 100 years, which that is the thing that threw me, is like,
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's been at the bar for 100 years or so.
oh God, I missed that the moon has a beard. I should have read this a
Yeah.
third time.
Yeah.
I should have read it a third time
I
before
was
we
trying to see if
started.
there's anything like, he regrets punching the sun. I wanted to see some sort of catharsis, but it's just an old man moon.
His like weird spiral tongue as well.
Like it's a very different world at that point, right? Like there's what 12 million people. Like it's a slightly more boring world even maybe by then, the one that Daisy's living in as an immortal, because like
Yeah.
it's been so, I don't know, ransacked is not the right word, like pulverized by wishes. But yeah, it's interesting.
Does it repopulate a little bit? I'm trying to. 12 million goes up from where it was, right? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's
No, it goes
No.
down.
it
So
goes
okay,
down a
fair
lot
enough.
from century from in 100 years.
Yeah,
No.
it's about 6 million
Oh,
less
wait,
than
no,
what it was prior.
I'm looking at the
That's the
previous
previous
cycles one. Yeah,
cycle.
that's me.
360 million.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so funny to see like the crazy shit in the background and guess like what the fuck wish.
Who
What
did this and
happened? What
why?
happened?
Yeah, there's so many pages that I feel like probably took a month to draw. I was just flipping backwards and saw the like lawyer wish battle where all the genies are like dressed
Yeah.
like the Idea Man and have swords and shields and are just like out
Mhm.
there popping off as they counter the lawyer wishes until there's just the
Um,
one left.
I also liked that it's not just visual gags. They have a lot of like wordplay and like verbal irony of like characters saying things or like places and people described as things that end up being a twist on that. So like Hope's Hollow is what Idea Man Floyd
Yeah.
calls his place, and it's literally like Hope is hollow. Like there, it is. His goal is to rule the world, so whatever you want doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then Robbie is interned in Sun's Rest, where like it's the star, the sun, but like he is the sun, and he is being put to rest because it's his funeral.
Yeah, the like Sun Man thing where they're both saying it but with different vowels is a very good gag.
I noticed a couple of the sound effects. I did not notice the lock one that you mentioned, so
I mean, again,
that's
like
cool.
Yeah.
the book could be read 6 times, I feel like, and you still would just miss stuff. So, so I checked this one out from the library just because it was probably the fastest way to get it. I'll probably buy this one at some point. Like, it's a really nice looking hardcover. Like, it's put together really well. There's a couple different versions of the hardcover, actually. There's one that's like just a big genie on the front, and there's the one that I have that's the standard one, I think, which still has like a shiny genie, but then it has all the main characters on the front too.
Yeah, that's the
So.
one I got from the library too.
But it's a
Yeah.
very
I
well
really got to
produced
say,
book also.
Yeah,
whoever made the final choice for the genie design, like they nailed it. Like they in
Yeah.
the back of the book that I read, they had like some samples of what they were originally thinking for genies and
yeah.
more like traditional. But yeah, I think what they went
Like
with.
Robin Williams' Genie was like their first draft, and then
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
let's move away from that a little bit.
Yeah, getting them to the like slightly looking slightly like the person therefore, and also cute is a very good choice.
Mhm.
While also being so taxing to draw, I imagine, because you can't like. It'd be so much easier if
They're
they all
all
just look
unique.
the same. But I think you
Yeah.
again,
And a
like I think you
color.
get so much out of the work. Like yeah, in the star fields, I'm sure that's probably just some sort of Photoshop thing, but I'm not
That's got to
discounting
be
it
a
as
yeah. Please let that be a layer they just put over it for the little
yeah.
cat.
I mean, it must be right because otherwise you just go mad.
I do like in my head canon they say the word wish when they do it because it's a sound effect in the
Oh
When
yeah,
they grant the wish.
definitely,
like
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I love how sarcastic the genie are. Like, they're there and they'll help you sort of, but they're also there to have a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the fact that the genies appreciate when a wish is good. Like
Yeah.
that alone is just like so like fundamentally cool to how they work, where they want to see wishes that are meaningful and good. Like, and they'll do the other thing if you force them to, but they really
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
want to.
Well,
They
that's why
want
they
like they're
hated the
trying to
idea
help.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was forcing them to make, like, there's no art in what he was doing. He was just forcing them to do what he wanted.
Yeah, just bashing them in the head until they did what he wanted essentially, but with words.
Yeah. Reading a wish out for 6 hours to catch all the loopholes.
You
Gross.
get like a genie chef's kiss for like a great artful wish.
Yes. Golf clap.
Meanwhile, the perfect wish fits within like 3 speech bubbles because turns out the genies like take intent into account, so it should be fine.
Yeah. What'd you guys think about the final perfect wish?
I I kind of figured it would be something to break the cycle to do peace on earth kind of thing. I didn't know exactly how it would get there. And it's a little corny and it's a little whatever, but like I kind of wanted the genies to get some rest anyway, so I didn't really
Sure.
care.
Yeah, I think it's a good cap to the book. I think you really have to remember that the genies take intent into account and make the wish work, because otherwise, like, there are people that want to be loved in ways that are weird. I don't know. I don't want to
I
say
was gonna
weird.
say.
Hurtful,
Yeah.
harmful. There are harmful ways, and that's not okay. I feel like, but we're just gonna hand wave that. I think is what I decided when I was walking my dog this morning.
Yeah. And it is
Yeah,
interesting that Betty points out, not Betty,
Daisy.
Daisy, thank you, starts the wish by saying it's the same as the first wish I made. And it's like, well, the first wish you made is sort of creepy.
Was kind of
too. So
awful, but I mean, again, we've matured. We can say the same words but mean a different thing. I think that speaks to what Simon was saying earlier, where like so much of this book is, I mean, Charles Soule is a lawyer, so much of this like book being tied up in words and what they mean makes sense.
sure.
I knew they weren't going to answer it, but like part of me still wanted to know why things were happening or what like a peek behind the curtains of the genie
Who
thing.
set it in motion? Maybe?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
like early on they mentioned like you could use your wish to find out why it's happening,
I
but
know.
you
It's like I
don't
would
really
totally
want
do that.
to.
Come
Like
on.
they basically say like you don't want to do it, you don't want to know. Like so I don't know.
Knowledge was their treasure.
And even Will just like references them as the cosmic powers, like some some greater thing is putting these genies in motion, like these
But
plans.
it
So
is interesting that each genie seems to long to go back home, right? There's some sort of like, I can't wait to get back
yeah, they'll
kind
like
of
see you
thing.
on the other side when one of them dies and stuff.
Yeah,
So
or like
Yeah.
we can go away to where we go away to, or something like is what one of
right,
them says. It's like,
Well, you see, guys, they're the monitors of the simulation, and when the simulation gets to a certain amount of
oh my god.
desired bandwidth, then the
Then we have a
simulation has
rocking
a
party down
recursive
in
loop that program.
what Zion are we on now?
Zion. Yeah, I couldn't remember the word.
You're talking about the space that they go to when they go to or whatever. Like when Li Feng's genie's in hiding and she summons it back, it's like a big zipper that it opens in space
Yeah,
and like comes through.
or like like a genie crashes through a window when they show. It's like there's a little like jokes the genies have just for themselves, just to keep things
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah,
and
I
the
mean, you
It's
band's
just
getting
gotta.
like
shot at by people and
Yeah.
then like dies like in an action movie, and it's just
Oh,
like,
no!
no, brother. And they're like, oh wait, no, we're fine, we can't die.
We're genies. Oh wait, it's true.
I'm pretty sure Brian's genie saved him from being headshot there by saying, "Oh look, your shoe's untied." Like the
Yeah, he
instant
definitely
before.
did. Again, like
Oh
Betty says
yeah.
later on in the book, you know they just do what they want, right? Like there are rules, but like they play within those rules
Ooh,
very hard.
yeah.
And I think it's in the Hemingway section. One of the times when they're cooped up in the bar, the genies are drinking in the background and like vomiting and like passing out, and then the next frame they're like just fine. Like they're like, yeah, whatever.
Aren't humans so funny? What did you get? There's that one random side character that Wang runs into when he's starting
Yeah,
out.
Jerome.
Yeah, what's with that guy? Was that a character they were going to do something with and just never got around to it?
Mm,
It was like
I
an
mean-
80-year-old guy who wished to be young and was trying to get to Ohio to see his
His
daughter
family,
and
right?
grandchild. Yeah. And Wang's like, well, I got my own shit to do, but if I run into you on the way back, we'll see what we can do. We never see him again, so he probably died because there's a highway that eating people alive behind him. So, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if it was like he died or like Wang was so focused on his own family thing that he didn't even try to go out of his way to find him again.
Sure, it was just like, it was a decent chunk of, it was like 2 pages, 2 or 3
Yeah,
pages.
a couple pages.
So I was just like, why do you think they had Jerome in there? Just to like
Show
more
how
characterization
dangerous
for
it
Wang?
is.
Yeah, I don't
Or,
know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the
I
only
was
thing
confused.
it does kind of stick out now that you mention it. The only thing I can think of is like the guy wished to be young as opposed to going to see his family, whereas
What's the priority? Yeah.
yeah, whereas
Sure.
Wang like
It
had
just
wished for
stuck
the
out
scene
to
to
me
protect his
as opposed to
family. I
other
don't know.
stuff.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
true. Like it is a decent amount of page real estate to introduce a character that, as far as I can remember, doesn't really pay off as much later. Potentially
I
just
think at
another
all. Did we
stop
ever
on.
see him again?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, like, that's the same issue where Wang fights a vampire too, right? So it might just be that's
I
Mhm.
just part of
suppose. Yeah.
part of his journey. We're just getting to see some weird stuff.
Turns a guy into Ghost Rider. I mean, melts his face off.
Yeah, it must be a bummer to be a genie that like has been waiting so long to get to go and hopefully do like a good wish, right? Like hopefully do like an
Mhm.
artful wish, and then you don't even get to get used. Like,
What a waste, he
yeah.
says as he
Well, the guy was
vanishes.
still waiting for a $50 million deal. What does money have anything to do? Like,
Yeah. Well, his bartender used her wish presumably to get all the jewels and stuff she's got,
Well,
like
like,
embedded into her.
but like a
that's the
company's
thing.
finances and like like nothing on that hard drive is worth anything.
So
Now.
that's what I
Like,
was thinking too. Is like, so Wang made that whole trip there to go kill this guy, and I think he's already figured it out by this point when he gets there. But like, that whole trip was not really necessary either. Like, who
no, like
cares?
I didn't quite understand the blackmail that he had on him, but it doesn't matter anymore.
No, it doesn't matter. Which is like basically the point of the journey is that the journey is kind of pointless. I think
I guess you would think that he would realize it before, like the first
he
time he
gets
runs
all the
into
way
like
there.
some
Yeah.
monstrosity and just like, well, this is bullshit. I'm going back to my family.
I mean, sometimes you get locked into a thing, right? You're like, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna finish it, and like, oh shoot, this was not necessary, but oh, I did it.
I guess that is funny. Cost me $50 million. What would you do with? Where would you? What bank is still? Like,
just wish it back, man.
oh my
You still
god!
got-
All right, I'm gonna ask the question. What wish would you guys make?
Okay, yeah, that was in my notes. So I was like, I think that was actually the last thing I had before we could move on to recommendations.
Aha!
And I, of course, didn't actually pick one,
I'm-
even though I did think about it.
Yeah, I'm terrible to ask these kind of questions. Any of the like, what's your favorite movie, or like you could only eat one meal the rest of your, like I'm like, it would change if you asked me tomorrow. It might change in a couple hours when you ask again. Like I couldn't tell you. So I would definitely get wish locked. I would like hold on to a wish so long that I would just paralyze myself with the
Sure.
number of things I wouldn't be wishing for.
But then I'd be worried about like if the longer you wait, the more danger you're in to be affected by someone else's wish, right?
Hmm.
Like that woman who burned down Detroit because she wished for a lightsaber?
Yeah. I mean, but like also the longer you hold it, again, Betty was like, I'm gonna go kill everyone else who has a wish, because then I will have the last wish and I can do whatever I
Fair.
want. So there's that. Pat, did you
Yeah.
actually pick one? Because like I have a theme for mine, but I don't know exactly how I would word it, I guess. So if you've got yours, Pat, you should go first.
I mean, I feel sort of cheating, like having read through this to know what kind of nonsense that would happen. Like you wouldn't have that knowledge supposedly in this hypothetical situation. I don't know. I thought after first reading this, like, okay, well, I'll wish for a galaxy class starship, and then I forgot that they show like all the derelict ships floating around.
They're
Like,
surrounding the
shit,
earth, yeah.
that didn't work. I don't know, something like protection or something, just like some sort of immunity to any wish that I so choose to be immune to. Something like that.
Yeah. I think
I mean, yeah,
Will's
that's
wish is
go ahead.
pretty solid to
Yeah,
have
it's
like
like
a place or
similar
a
to what I was
person that's
thinking
not
Yeah.
too.
affected.
Like, do you just shunt yourself to a parallel universe where this isn't happening?
I
Like,
wish
is that-
this wasn't happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Immediately wish to like that to undo all of the wishes and just go back to no one having wishes.
It's one of
Like,
the things I thought about, honestly. Like, or is there some way to like wish yourself to a paradise removed from Earth? Like, and not just yourself. Like, I would bring people I like with me. Also, you
Mhm.
guys would get to
Yeah,
come.
like a wish to have and the ability to grant immunity to any wish that I so choose. Something like that.
also like obviously part of the story is like superpowers aren't the answer, but like doesn't time manipulation like
That's my always go-to choice. Like, what's your superpower of choice? Control time.
it's like
Aha!
I can control time and I'm unaffected by the stoppage or passage of time in the same way. So
Time
you just
control is
like
such a mess. Telekinesis is my superpower of choice because it's basically like flight, telekinesis, and super strength
Super
in
strength.
one. It's
Yeah,
a big
that's
cheat.
good.
So
That's good. Well, then, like shape shifting is also could get you there too. So what are you
and I know they mentioned it
gonna do?
with like the countries and the people like saying, oh, we want our country to be like
Yeah, that
the one
was
on top,
funny.
that the genies just like canceled out all of the similar or competing wishes.
Yeah,
But
I feel
I'm
like time control would probably go against what the genies want to do, so they probably
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah, and
I'm
like
like,
want.
why
they might
isn't
not even
there like
have
a
that power, right? Like I don't know.
sure.
Yeah, something that actually like fucks with the loop would probably not be granted, or at least not to that extent.
I was like, why isn't there like one Dr. Manhattan guy that can control anything that just
Yeah,
comes up? But maybe they just wouldn't grant it, or they
Like
enough
literally
people.
can't. The simulation can't do that.
Yeah, right.
like maybe there was, but it's only like limited to like 6 city blocks or something like that. You have complete domain over reality. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would be
Yeah,
some variation of just protecting myself and the people I love in this wacky world. I don't think it would be badass suit of armor protection because I feel like that leaves a lot of leeway
Yeah,
still.
gaps. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because like obviously he protected himself going out the first time, and then his family when they decided to go out and find a haven, and then even on the boat when they fight the embodiment, the Norwegian
Jeez.
embodiment of the sea. Um, he still gets him out of there with like his jetpack kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um, but obviously didn't help enough when him and his wife died. Like,
yeah,
so
Yeah, you're still only one person at that point. So again, the
yeah.
exact
Having the
wording I'm
suit,
not
you
sure on.
would still have to be constantly vigilant, and that's you can't do it.
No.
If you had control over time, you'd have to constantly be like on edge to like, do I need to stop time immediately right now? Or
Oh yeah, I played Prince
right.
of Persia, Pat, so I understand.
yeah, this is a really fun book.
Yeah, it was a good pick. Good pick, Pat.
Thank you, thank you.
Do we want to do recommendations for people who like this book? What else should they read or watch or otherwise check out?
So I have some like things particularly pertaining to this book, and then some other stuff that's not really related. But uh, obviously, this was giving me Walking Dead vibes with like surviving an apocalypse, found family, like who can you trust? What does the world afterwards look like? But also gave me immediately Shaun of the Dead vibes, of just like holed up in the Winchester, let this whole thing blow over, and the band and some of the kind of cheeky humor gave me some Scott Pilgrim vibes as well. Yeah, but outside of comics and things, because I don't read enough comics, but it's tangentially related. About a month ago, it was like April or May, they released a Netflix series called Dead Boy Detectives, which is a spin-off of the Sandman universe. So if you liked Neil Gaiman's Sandman, that's a good show. I think they have one season, and then I think they get renewed for a second one. But it's set in that universe, and it's about ghosts solving paranormal crimes for mortals, and it's kind of like a lighter play on X-Files or Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's really well acted and produced and stuff, so highly recommend.
I like that you said outside of comics and then picked an adaptation of comics.
Instead of comics.
Yeah, I had a couple things, and I decided to go with the one that's actually more. I could have said Shogun or all of Dropout.tv. So
That what you got? Or do you want me to go?
I mean, I'm gonna have to repeat things. It's so embarrassing, Matt. It's so
Oh,
embarrassing.
no.
Who am I? What am I doing on this podcast? No, just to go with the kids getting superpowers theme, I think Wicked and Divine gets into that. Like, what do you do when you're granted crazy powers, and what happens when they're actually a teenager with lots of hormones? That does some fun stuff with that, and I also think Lock and Key explores that a little bit too. And
Yeah.
both of those series are real good and also complete, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. Lock and Key actually is another good book that does the like world building setup narrative payoff mesh really well.
It's real good.
Yeah. So that tracks. I like that rec.
Did it. So yeah, I think those two series I would recommend if you liked the nonsense in this. And yeah.
I have a couple recs because it didn't come up during the actual discussion. Before this, Charles Soule and Ryan Brown did a book together called Curse Words that I have not read, but I did go look at like the premise for it as part of my research for this because that's another one that I've been like meaning to get to, but I haven't. And then on the strength of this, I was like, I definitely will put that on the list and get to it eventually. The like short premise, as Soul said, like in a Reddit thread I was looking at, is that it's about a family of evil wizards in New York City, except they don't know they're a family and they don't think they're evil. So, like the main character has like a koala sidekick and wears sunglasses. Like it looks like it's the same sort of like vibe for sure. So, probably want to go check that one out. The other recommendation I had was the other genie book that I ended up writing about for the blog, which is called, and I think I have the pronunciation correct here, Shubik Lubik, which is by Dina Muhammad. It's a story about genies also, but it's more of like if wishes were integrated into modern society and like we're part of modern society. Like there are different strength wishes that cost different money. There's like a wish black market. And instead of like zooming out and taking like a big macro view of the thing, it's very personal. It touches on like 3 or 4 characters, different stories within this world that's kind of been built. So it's similar, but it's also very different. It also does a lot of cool, inventive page design and layout things. Not in the sort like there's a million things on this page, but just like inventive stuff where like people's emotions are like on a graph or like stuff like that. So definitely a good book. And if you're just into reading cool genie books where what happens if people have wishes is extrapolated to all of society, you should definitely check that one out. It's very good.
Add them to the pile.
Right. The never-ending list. What an awful burden to have to read so many comics. But we finished talking about this one. I'll do the rote outro here. We're so professional. That's gonna do it for this month. Blah, blah, blah. You can get in touch with Pat or myself at waitingonthetrade@gmail.com. You can find more comics-related goodness at mattreadscomics.com. Simon, thanks for coming on to talk about wacky genie stuff with us. I know it's been a busy like couple months for you, as I think it has been for me, and I think it has been for Pat also here and there. So it's always nice to make some time and talk about batshit insane comics.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm always up for whatever nonsense, whether I pick it or it's forced upon me. I guess I'll read more comics and talk about them with
Okay.
my
Everyone
friends.
today has been so mad about these unilateral choices we're making, as though they don't lead to great outcomes. I don't like. Come on, guys, get on board. I'm the idea man. Believe in me.
Yeah, I had a great time, and I'd always be up for more of this show, or as Matt hinted, a possible spin-off show. Just keep me in mind.
We're
I'll
talking.
make
I
it
actually
work.
was the comic has not released yet, or I would have put it in the Rex. But I've got a potential series I want to launch that I gotta get Pat on board with. So
Keep on the lookout for Chillin' with Gillen.